Hey, we are live. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Say
Hello.
hello. Say hello to my amazing, incredible guests for this week. This is the 10th live show that I've done for my In Conversation with, where I chat to a couple of middle grade authors when they've got a fresh, brand new book out. And I'm so excited that I do have two of my absolute faves writing one of my absolute favorite new series of the past few years, and that is the Adventures on Train series. We have a new book out next week, Murder on the Safari Star. Yes. Oh, I got it written up. Yeah, Adventures on Trains.
There it is.
I've got my copy up there, but if I take it down, it'll just keep falling off. But it's there. It's there, I promise. So everybody watching, can I get you to raise a glass to MG Leonard, Sam Sedgman for... Guys, it's been a year, hasn't it? It's been a year
Oh my God.
What a year it's been, Gav.
It's been incredible. You know what? It has been weird, but I feel for you guys, it's also been really incredible because there have been so many amazing things that have come from the Adventures on Train series. I mean, you guys have just made, what was it, the top 50 best-selling children's books of last year. Well, isn't that just like incredible? It's mind-blowing. Like, are you guys excited? Are you guys okay?
I mean, none of us are okay, but like, we're very excited.
Yeah.
What does everything mean this year? Who knows? We're just very grateful that someone wants to publish the books.
We feel incredibly lucky that we've had something positive this year to balance out all the negative, because at the times when it's been most difficult, and I think it's been difficult for everyone, there's been all of this good news coming in as well, and people loving the trains. Like, my favorite thing about writing for children is that I get sent lots of pictures of children clutching our books by trains and, you know, just genuinely loving them, and every little kind of connection like that just kind of fills your heart up a little bit, and that's really helped keep us going this year.
Good. I mean, I know that I kind of pester you guys a lot as well on the Twitter. I do like to tag you guys in a lot of stuff. I'm sorry about that, but also not sorry. Good. I'm glad. Well, everyone watching, there are links in the description so that you can buy Murder on the Safari Star if you have not already got your copy. I know that I mean, Waterstones have a signed edition, so I'm trying not to plug a specific place, but I mean, Waterstones do have signed copies, just saying. So that's really cool. And we're going to try and be as spoiler-free as possible. However, we are, I mean, we are drinking, so maybe just proceed with caution is what I would like to say. But
I'm going to do my best, but I have a reputation for always spoiling things. And I keep going, no, I'm not going to spoil it, but you just need to know about this thing. And then, no. So I'll try. But
yeah, we're going to be on our best behavior. Wink, wink. And before I start off with the really fun icebreaker questions while people are still tuning in, I do want to say I am doing my next interview will be with Benjamin Dean next Friday. So I just wanted to plug that quickly. He is the author of Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow, which comes out on February 5th. So here's my next interview. So guys, please do tune into that too. So I hope you guys are a little bit scared. Well, not scared, because these questions are all right, but you haven't been told what these questions are. And these are the icebreakers. It's the icebreaker round. And I mean, it's my favorite round. You shouldn't be scared whatsoever. But my first question, this questions I ask all my authors, but do you prefer working in the morning or do you prefer working on the nighttime? Standard, start off with.
I'm a morning girl, yeah.
Okay.
But when she says morning, she means like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
What? That's still night.
Yeah, but
when you say morning, I mean like 10 a.m.
But I need to get a couple of hours when everyone is asleep. And when I first started writing, I tried to do them at the end of the day, but I was fatigued. I was tired. So my brain was not very good, not very sharp. Whereas if I get up at 4 and stand in front of a computer and just start writing, I'm refreshed from sleep, and therefore I can produce something good. And then my kids tumble down the stairs at like 6:30, and that's it. You know, we're all housebound at the moment. So yeah, 4 in the morning.
It's a good excuse, that, because you do have the kids to consider as well. Sam, what about you?
Well, I used to be a total night owl, and I would write like my best stuff from like 10 p.m. until 3 a.m. that's not me anymore. Now, like, I get my best work done after I get to my desk in the morning, but I'm not a 4 a.m. person. I have to rub off the sleep. I have to go for a walk. I have to eat. I have to have my tea. I have to get everything sorted out. Then I'm going to sit at the desk. And then come about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I have like that afternoon snooze button. Like, it's like someone just like turns off your creative part of your brain. I can't do anything except do emails. So that's like my best part of the day. But as Maya will tell you, that when you're on deadline, you'll write anytime you have to.
Anytime is a good time, as soon as you can. Usually I'm asleep. I go to sleep about 4 a.m. That's usually my routine. But at least I know when to pester you guys and the best time to pester you. That's why I ask all my authors, I'm like, when are you up? So if you could go on a journey anywhere in the world, where would you go to? I know this is it's a horrible question, but let's visualize some really positive happiness. This could happen. Yeah, where would you go?
I mean, right now, I'm more than 5 miles from my house. But no, I am planning a train journey to take when this is all done and we can take trains again. I really want to go to Lisbon on the train. Ooh. And you do this in several stages. You go the Eurostar from London to Paris, obviously. Spend a couple of days in Paris. That'd be lovely. You get the TGV from Paris to Lyon. Never been to Lyon. The food is incredible. Really want to go there. High speed from Lyon to Barcelona. Go to the beach, like eat some delicious tapas, stay up to midnight. Great. High speed to Madrid. Again, fantastic food. Never been to Madrid. Very excited. Then you get the overnight sleeper train, the Lusitania, from Madrid to Lisbon, and have some beers on a rooftop. That is my dream journey that I'm really looking forward to doing.
You had it all set out there, like literally a full itinerary. I wasn't expecting that, but I like it.
I wanted to do it a year ago, Gavin. I've had nothing to do but think about it all the time.
I mean, that's the thing. Sam also knows all the best routes and all the best places you can get to by train. If I could go anywhere, I've always wanted to, and one day will go to, but I can't get a train there, is the Galapagos Islands. Like, there is so much at the Galapagos Islands that I want to see and experience. And yeah, that would be the place. That, and also randomly, I really want to go to Yellowstone Park, but Galapagos Islands first.
Oh, nice. I do know, I read Darwin's Dragons by Lindsay Galvin recently, and that's partly set there. Is there like a train anywhere around there where you can set a future book? No, all islands. That's the shame of it. So yeah, you need a boat really. So wrong book series for the Galapagos Islands. If I were to get a train,
now a good time to announce Adventures on Boats, Maya. Should we let them know a little secret?
I get terribly seasick. I'm not a boat person.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, you could like write about it though. I mean, it would be a really great spin-off series, like Adventures on Boats. It really would be. So I'm interested. I can't wait to see what's coming. If you had to lip sync for your life, what song would you pick?
Oh my god!
Are you telling me you guys won't have an answer prepared?
I mean,
you don't have an answer?
First, I was afraid. I was petrified.
Oh,
definitely. Yeah. I would definitely have to. I'd have to go very, very camp and very, very classic. Rather, yeah, that would be me.
Yeah, that's a good shout. It is a really good shout.
I think
the crowd riled up
because it's a really happy, bouncy song with lots of words that always makes me feel good, and I think I could do it. Mm-hmm. "Cherish" by Madonna.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would not have thought that.
If you're in a bad mood, guys, listen to "Cherish."
I will.
I've got words you want to say. That's the other thing. There's a lot in it. You could do a lot of stuff to it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good show. Actually, I didn't think about, because there is a whole performance you got to give with it as well.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, you can't just. No. I was going to say "Dirty" by Christina Aguilera for me, but that's my song for everything. Really
drop in there, Gav. That's going to be.
There's going to be a lot of them. In fact, the whole routine's just going to be one long slut drop. Is what it's going to be. I've actually not thought that one all the way through, but I'm going to plan it, and then the next Adventures on Trains book that comes out, we can perform our lip sync battles.
Yeah,
absolutely, of course. This is definitely
go walk out the door. Yeah, I'm down for that. Totally down for that.
Gru, copyright, I don't care. It's happening. What are your favourite books from childhood that probably still stays with you to this day?
Oh, I have quite a few. Basically, I'm just like a massive kid. So I still love those books very much. And they are Wind in the Willows, The Secret Garden, The Twits. I still can't get over the Twits. I love the Twits. And I know that Dahl is problematic in many ways, and there's lots of problems with that story. But I grew up in a house where my parents genuinely hated each other, and I related to the Twits hard. So yeah, Watership Down is another one that destroyed my heart and head in a way. So yeah.
Oh, don't get me started on Watership Down. What about you, Sam?
I was thinking about this the other day because I've just started presenting Down the Rabbit Hole, the radio show about kids' books. And this was what we were talking about on our first show. And I'm such a love ever since childhood of Terry Pratchett. Like, he's such a dude. I loved all of his books for younger readers, like Truckers, Diggers, and Wings, and then the Johnny and the Bomb, Johnny and the Dead books, Only You Can Save Mankind. They're just so playful and delightful and charming, and I really loved them. And they just kind of merged. So I would then reading the Discworld series like almost immediately because I didn't realize that they weren't for kids. And I mean, they are for kids because he writes for everyone. He's such a generous writer. Philip Pullman, and of course, I was of the perfect age to grow up with Harry Potter. So I remember like reading Harry Potter on the school bus. I'm a Potter fan. But yeah, those.
I am way too old, even for Pullman.
No. Stab it. No, you're not. I was actually, that was a spoiler, Sam, because I was going to ask you about the podcast later on, but it's fine. It's fine. We've plugged it again.
Okay, that's all right. We'll have forgotten about it.
Okay, that's fine. Everyone just pretend that didn't happen. It's coming up. I want to highlight a couple of comments, actually. I love the Adventures on Train series. I met MJ Leonard and Sam Sedgman at an indie bookstore event, and they're brilliant. So, Kate, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate.
Had some book chat, and we always chat about books on this channel. I don't remember chatting about anything else. There's so many people in the chat as well. Jamming to Born This Way. And that would be a good lip sync.
That's a great one. I should have thought Gaga, actually. I could do that would be good.
It is a little bit predictable. I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit predictable. But that's why you didn't choose it. You chose Cherish, which a lot of people actually have said, love Cherish, love Cherish. Really amazing answers there, because you have actually struck a chord with people there, I think.
It's an underrated Madonna classic.
Yeah,
no one it. So good.
So the last icebreaker before we get into the nitty gritty is to draw this little round to a close. Tell me one thing that has happened the past year that has really brought a smile to your face. And I know there's going to be loads, but like try and pick one ultimate moment which made you really, really smile. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So there was this little bubble of time between all the lockdowns where Sam and I managed to sneak off to a railway carriage to plot out book 4 in the Train series. And it was so nice. We arrived in our car and there was no one there because it's a place where you can get these vintage railway carriages that are all done up like as kind of, I don't know, like not like I don't know how to describe it, like a mobile home, but in a carriage. It's quite, It's got bedrooms and it's, and so we plotted out book 4 in that carriage. And it feels to me, when I look back at the kind of garbage fire of this year, there's this little bubble where Sam and I were in a train carriage making up book 4. That was just lovely. So that makes me smile.
That's a good answer.
I'm also going to dodge the garbage fire of the pandemic by casting my mind back to, it must have been the end of February, early March, when we had a really narrow sliver of time after The Highland Falcon Thief, the first book in the series, had come out before right there, as demonstrated by the lovely Gavin, before the lockdown gates came crashing down. And we did an event at a school where, oh God, I remember going to schools, great. We were at a book signing table, so the kids would come along and they would buy a book of their choice, and if they bought our book, they would come to us and we would sign it. And we'd done like a little, I think we'd done a little presentation or whatever. And this is like week one of being an author for me. I'd never had a book out before. I'd never seen anyone. And this class of kids came in and they all bought a book, and I signed it for them. I put their name in it. I put a little stamp in it. And then they all, one by one, went to the opposite side of the room and sat down by the radiator and started reading it. And like, there was this line of 10 kids just in front of me by a radiator, all like heads down, noses in my book. And I was like, they're reading my book, guys. They're reading my book. How has this happened? And that for me was like, oh, this is what you do now. You write books. And I felt so happy.
It's validation that when your actual target audience actually has your book. And that, again, like school visits, I mean, obviously I don't do them because I'm not an author, but I did do them with authors. So I was the one selling the books. So it was always so nice when the kids are coming up to the table to buy the books, and they're really excited because they've just heard an author talk about their book, and it's made them, like, riled them up for a really great time to read that book. So, but fortunately, like, now people can watch authors talk online, and, you know, there's a lot of virtual events that I'm sure you guys have been doing, and so it's not over, and it's going to happen again. So positive vibes, manifesting them. And yeah, and so that actually brings me nicely into being an author, because as you said, there was your first time sort of, well, for you, Sam, it was your first time being an author. So I know, do you want to be called, is it Maya or MJ? Or
Maya. Like
Maya,
the month
Maya.
May. Yeah, Maya.
Oh, and I'm born in May as well, so that's perfect.
Oh, me too.
What day? Can you say 16th and the 7th? So I mean, it's close enough.
Koreans, though.
Yes, and I feel like Taurians get on very well together, so it's all good. So what are the origin stories behind both of your passions for writing then? Because I believe you both have different backgrounds. I think, Sam, you were a playwright, and you also have done a lot of stuff before this. So, Sam, if you want to go first, and then we'll give Maya a little break.
Well, I mean, I've always, in terms of origins, I've always wanted to be a writer. I was one of those kids that wrote stories and read voraciously and went to the library and like made up my own stories and things like that when I was really, really young. And I actually went to university to study English and creative writing, because I knew I wanted to be a writer so much. I was like, oh, you can study writing. That's so cool. And I went there and I really enjoyed it. But going to university to study creative writing, and I can't speak for all courses, but certainly the course that I did really kind of made me feel like the only writing worth doing was very political, heavy, hardback, literary, sensible writing. And I thought I must write something important, something frivolous or fun or interesting. And so I, for a long time, carried that false thought in my head. And I went to London and I studied theatre, and I started working in theatre, and I started writing plays, and I wanted to write like the great, amazing state of the nation play kind of thing, your David Hare, Aaron Sorkin kind of thing. And I wrote a few things like that. I was not a David Hare or Aaron Sorkin, but I did try. And it wasn't until I met Maya, my friend, and at the time my boss at the National Theatre, that I realized, oh, you could write for, well, firstly, you could write whatever you wanted. You could write a book. That book could be for the 10-year-old version of yourself that just loves things. And you could write a book about the things that you love, and that's okay. And in fact, a lot more people will care about you writing things that you think are fun than you trying to be very up yourself and political about the state of the world. So having a conversation with Maya about writing a children's book together really opened the floodgates for me and made me realize that I could write something fun and exciting and allow me to really get in touch with who I was as a 10-year-old. And I think the secret to adulthood is that the things you like when you're 10 are the things you like for the rest of your life. but then like being a grown-up kind of gets in the way and makes you like think that they're stupid or silly. But I just love trains, Gav. I love trains, history, I love games and puzzles. I liked them when I was 10. I like them as an adult. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It really isn't.
Exactly. And this partnership writing with Maya really kind of made me realize that that's fine and you should write about whatever you want and people will like it. So that's how I ended up doing what I do.
Yeah, and this past whole year has been that theory being proven right, because a lot of people do really want to read mysteries on trains. But Maya, for you, you also started off with the Beatles series before, coming on to the Adventures on Trains train. So how was your start? How was your origin to become a writer?
I am not like Sam. I didn't want to be a writer growing up. It wasn't something that I loved. In fact, I was not good at school at writing. I've always been an avid reader, and I've always been a massive, I was going to say show off, but performer, show off. And I love to make up stories, or as I was told as a child, I was a liar, but I was making up stories. But I really fundamental issues with grammar and punctuation and handwriting. And in my day at school, it was all about handwriting. There was no laptops in those days. And I was tested for dyslexia and all sorts of things. And there's absolutely nothing. I don't have any kind of anything other than my hand just doesn't do what it's meant to. And I really struggled with the rules of grammar. And because I didn't have any particular thing that you could put a name on, schools just told me, well, you're just a terrible writer. So I believed them. Of course, when you're a kid, you believe them. So I thought, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be on the stage, darling, and I'm going to speak words, and I don't care about writing. And I never really thought about writing until I was a lot older, and I was studying Shakespeare, who is my favorite playwright. I love Shakespeare. And I was working at the Globe, and I discovered that Shakespeare didn't ever punctuate his plays. That was all done by editors later. And he only ever wrote scripts for actors who learnt their particular lines, and it all happened very much live and in the moment. And the purpose of writing things down was purely so that people could speak them. And I thought, well, I can pretty much quote you large swathes of Shakespeare verbatim, and I can make up a really good story, and I can tell it in a really engaging way. So really, I could be a writer. The barrier is just the education system that told me I can't do Victorian formal writing that would have made me a good secretary. But I mistook good writing and for storytelling. I didn't realize they're two different things. And I've always been a storyteller, whether I did it with ballet or painting or theatre. I did it in lots of ways, just not writing. So I was a grown-up by the time I had that realization. I was in my late 20s, early 30s before I realized that this was something I could do. And that was at the same time that I discovered that I didn't know what a beetle was. And that took me down a very interesting path, because that was when these all, what these things are like, they all kind of come together in a serendipitous moment. But I discovered that beetles weren't just insects that scurried around on the ground, that they had these two pairs of wings and that they could fly. And I'd never imagined a beetle flying ever. And I went to the pub with my mates and I was like, all right, everyone, describe a beetle for me. And all my mates were like, oh, scurry around on the ground, insects. And I was like, okay, describe them. And they all described exactly what I imagined, which was a small little brown or black thing. And I was like, okay, beetles have two pairs of wings, and one of them is a hard pair that like flips out like some crazy transformer, and they have a leathery soft pair underneath, and beetles fly. And they were like, rubbish, no, they don't. And I realized, oh, it's not just me that doesn't know what a beetle is. And that one thought literally led me down a path that made me realize that this would be a great story, that children need to be taught more about the world around them that exists whilst it exists. And it began like a domino effect that took 10 years to turn into a book, because I'd never written a book before Beetle Boy. But I had worked in the music industry, the theatre industry. I've worked in video production. I knew all the different modes of storytelling. Yeah. I just didn't know how you did it with words. And that took me 10 years to learn. And then Beetle Boy came out, and I was like, right, bring it on. Next idea. Like, now I've got the bug and I know I can do it, and that I know that I've got stories I want to tell. That's how I became a writer, but I didn't want to be one at the beginning. I'm obviously desperately love being one now, but that's a journey. But Adventures on Trains came about because I spent 10 years learning about insects. That's a really long time, and I am an expert on Coleoptera now, on beetles. And I go and have meetings with other coleopterists at the Natural History Museum. I know my subject so well. And in that time I had children, boys, and my boys loved trains. And I wanted them to be readers. And I went to bookshops and libraries, and I looked for chapter books that were really good, exciting adventures that were contemporary on real trains, not unicorn trains or fancy troll trains made out of magic dust or imaginative trains. I wanted real locomotives for my boys that really wanted real locomotives, and they weren't there. And if you really want a book and you know that children really want to read that book and it isn't in the bookshop, that is an opportunity for an author. And I was like, oh my God, someone needs to write Adventures on Trains. There are boys and children and girls and people out there who love trains that would read this book, and it's not been written. But I know absolutely zip about trains, nothing. Luckily, though, I was sitting next to Sam Sedgman at work, exactly. And so he, behind his desk on the wall, behind his computer, he had this big map of the London tube system with all the closed stations on it. And he used to tell me about how his master's dissertation was a thesis on the closed stations of the London Underground. And when he asked me what I was going to write after the Beetle trilogy was finished, I was like, you know, I have this idea about trains. And he got so excited. And I was like, well, we could try writing it together. I mean, I've never written anything with anyone else before. Sam's the first person I've ever tried to write anything with. But we both come from a theatrical background, which is all about collaborative storytelling and honing something. Even live in performance, stuff changes, you know. So I figured we could probably be able to do it. And turns out it's pretty good.
I can tell you're both from that background as well. Sorry, I can tell you both from that background. You're so theatrical, such amazing storytellers. I can really tell.
It's true. We do love to gab. So no, I mean, yeah, Mayor's, we were having a drink and I asked her what was next after Beatles, because Beatles had done so well, and she'd quit the National to go be a full-time celebrity children's novelist. We were very impressed with that. And then, she started saying, I got excited about trains, and I, as established, am an absolute train nut. That master's dissertation was, it was a play. It was called Strand. It was set on the abandoned Aldwych tube station. And I was just obsessed with that. The ghost stations underneath like cities, or like abandoned stations that have been closed for whatever reason, and they're still there. They're so cool. I could talk for hours about that, but I won't. Maya said, I've got to say about trains, and the two things that have always gone together for me are like mystery stories and trains. Because when you kind of think of like the golden age of steam, you think of the golden age of crime writing, or at least I do. But surprisingly few, like, you know, classic Agatha Christie's are on trains and of that ilk. But they always kind of go together for me. And I thought, oh my God, if you're going to write books on trains, you should make the mystery stories on trains. They'd be really cool, because a train is a great place to set a mystery on, because it's got the closed system that you need for a good classic detective story, where you've got a set number of characters, no one can leave. The evidence is all there. Everyone's mixed up together. It's great fertile setting for mystery stories. So we got to chatting. We kind of hatched this idea. We decided to try and write it together. Because we'd worked together already, I think we knew that we wouldn't rip each other's throats out.
That's a big plus. That is a big plus.
But like, we knew already how to tell each other that's a terrible idea.
Okay.
Which is like, it happens all the time. And it's so, because like most ideas that people have are terrible. And when you write by yourself, you don't know if they're terrible. So you like spend weeks writing, and you get then you'll be like, oh, this is awful. Whereas like, if I'm like, Mayor, how about we do this? And there's like this robot sheep, okay? And like, What are you doing? Absolutely not. So yeah, you get to tell each other. You get to know when an idea is good because the other person likes it, and you get to know that another idea is terrible. So you get through. You find the real root of the story a lot faster, I think, when you write with someone else, and you're not afraid to tell them what you think, and you're not afraid to hear that's a terrible idea.
That's a good point, actually, because you don't want to, like, for example, if you were a singer, you don't want to get onto the X Factor and be a really terrible singer and only know about it as you're already, you know, singing to millions of people at home. So it seems like you balance each other out really well, which is like amazing. And that was going to be my next question, was like, how do you physically get to write the stories? Is there a system that you both work with, or is it more like a go with the flow kind of thing, or how does it work?
Well,
like,
I mean, there was a good system, and then coronavirus
There's an idea of a system.
I mean, because the thing is that we work much better when we're together, in like the same space, but then we have to go away to do the actual writing. Because otherwise,
we're not those people who sit down with a keyboard and go like, should we put a comma there? Oh my god, great idea. Absolutely not. Some people do that and they do it really well, but I could not. No.
Be too distracting.
Yeah.
But
we have some ideas together. We talk it out together, and then we go away and do it.
Because the other thing is that when we're together, we're both talkers, as you can tell, but we have all these questions. So like, because all storytelling really is a series of questions and choices, right? And so when we're together talking about a story, we're like, oh, this could happen, or that could happen, or what do you think about this, or I'm not sure I like that. And you end up with a series of kind of rough ideas. Everything goes on Post-it notes. And then in the olden days before lockdown, we'd see each other like every week, and we would both make progress on like a particular area that we were writing of the book. And then we would meet up and chat about it and like tell each other where we were hitting walls. And that was really great because we were communicating all the time. The hardest thing about lockdown has been like, I've had to go and like edit a manuscript and not see Sam for like 2 months and then send it to him. And like, if I've taken out bits that previously we've both agreed should be there, and then he doesn't know why I've taken it out. And so then there's all these kind of questions that come after the work, whereas normally we do all of the questioning before we do the work, and then we know what we've produced is what we want. So coronavirus has tipped everything on its head. And actually, I feel like it's made writing the manuscripts more work. It's not as easy. And you know, it's testament to our friendship, really, that this year we've still managed to produce quite a lot of books in this environment, because we do now have a very good understanding of one another and what our sensitivities are. But ordinarily, we'd post everything on Post-it notes, plot out the entire book, and then, like, I'm a very much an Act 1 person, like, because I find opening a book is very difficult, and you've got to get all your pieces in the right place, like a chessboard. And because Sam is so good at the route, and he knows the trains and the length the route's going to take, as you saw from his schedule, quite often the structure of our narratives goes along with the train timetable. And I never have a clue what they are, or, you know, he'll be like, well, it's 3 hours to this city, so we need, like, and that really affects the shape of our plots, the journey of the actual train. So quite often I'll really work on the opening while Sam's putting in the skeletal structure of that, and then we'll swap, and he'll look at the opening and I'll look at, you know, and we just keep swapping.
That does sound good, but it also sounds really complex. Like, with it being a mystery as well, you also have to factor in all of the cast of characters and who does what and where the evidence is. And I mean, you guys are pretty much the master of manipulation, because the amount of manipulation, that's strong. Sorry, I meant misdirection.
No, I love it. Manipulation's fine.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Well, actually, to be fair, kind of do, because you guys manipulate me into thinking I'm right about a certain outcome, and then you totally like turn it on its head by the end. So when you're doing something that intricate, do you end up confusing each other, or like how have you plotted out particular mystery, or like say for the third book, for example, like what was it that you did to put all the pieces together before you got confused about everything?
I mean, we do have a massive spreadsheet.
Oh yeah, like we when we meet before we write anything. Generally, again, like this is how we like to work, but like we would meet up together and literally plan on post-it notes that would then become a spreadsheet, like chapter by chapter, act by act. We have a 5-act structure because Shakespeare uses a 5-act structure, and Maya has very persuasively convinced me that this is the only way that you can structure anything is the 5-act structure. It was good enough for Shakespeare, it's good enough for us, and I agree. So we have that structure, we have the acts within it, we have what's happening to every character, we have obviously the route where the train's going to be at what place, and then we arrange everything in order so that we know exactly when everything's going to be revealed and what's going to happen before we write anything. So we're both on the same page about what's going to happen. And then you kind of try and write that, and it doesn't work for some reason that you discover on the way. But we tend to have different focuses on the book, like the thing that we think is most important. Like we both do everything, but I always have my eye on the clues. Like for me, the most important thing is how do you order the clues and the information so the reveal at the end when it comes is like a key in a well-oiled lock. Like that's what I want. That's what I'm always looking for. And so we have a running joke that I always try and hide the clues too much, and Maya tells me to make them.
Our readers are 10 years old. Like,
but I don't think it's a reader sophistication thing for the most part. I think it's like there is a good place to put the clue. Like how obvious do you make every piece of information? And you don't want to have too many red herrings or too many clues. So for me, like striking that balance as we go through about how and when you do it, that's like my main focus, because for me the whole point of a mystery story is like setting up the end so it's just right.
I also feel at this point Sam should come clean and confess that if there aren't at least 3 plots in a book, he's not happy.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love a subplot because a subplot is a great place to hide or 2. Yeah, I'm never happy with 1 plot. I always overcomplicate things. If you read something that we've written and you think it's a bit much, it was me.
Well, then I'm trying to like figure out now who wrote what, because when I look back on, like, again, I won't spoil it for anyone watching, but like say for Murder on the Safari Star, the logistic of how it happened, if you know what I mean, wink wink.
Oh, that
like
was
the
all Sam. That was all Sam.
But I should say, like the way all the books have been quite different in the way that we've actually approached them. So like Safari Star, the genesis of that whole crime and how it comes about, like we started with the reveal at the end of the how and the why. Well, not the why, but the how was like, that's really good. Let's build out from that. The Highland Falcon Thief, we didn't do that. We started with, let's have a jewel thief on a train. What's a cool way of doing that? Kidnap on the California Comet. I honestly can't remember. we didn't struggle with that, but like we struggle with a part of every book actually. You write a book and it all kind of works apart from one act you tend to struggle with. And so Murder on Safari Star, there was, I think it was Act 3 or Act 4, there was like a muddly bit in the middle that we couldn't quite link the two things together. Kidnap on the California Comet, we knew everything that we were doing until the end when we like shoved the characters in a room and we were like, now what? What now? And we did like 6 drafts of that at the end. And Maya would like write an email to me being like, I've written this 10 times and I'm exhausted. I can't write anymore. You take it. And I'm now so proud of the climax of Kidnap on the California Comet because we've worked so hard at it. But yeah, like the way we've written them all has been slightly different. But I think we aspire to do the same things in every book in terms of having, a well set up kind of series of clues that builds to a climax and a reveal that kind of go together naturally.
That'll be really handy for the people watching, because I know there are a lot of aspiring writers who usually watch these author interviews too, who kind of love to know the logistics of how you guys do do certain things. So no, that's actually really interesting. I might try my hand at writing a mystery myself. I don't think I'll be any good at it, but we'll give it a try.
I think the important thing is that there is no real formula. We try and have a system, but it's not formulaic. We never really we try and get organized, but there's always something different about it. And
I feel like yeah, well, I feel like the best way of surprising an audience is when you feel a bit surprised yourself. So with the way you've approached each of the individual books, as you said, has been really different. And I do actually have like a couple of questions like later on about like which one was the hardest and stuff to write. But just to go back on track with the Adventures on Trains a little bit, yeah. But I just really wanted to use a train pun. I'm sorry, that just wasn't the right time for it. You guys must He has a question, actually. He has a question I just thought of. Are you guys sick of train puns? Are you really sick of them at this point? Not yet? Really? You're not sick of them?
I mean, though. There's so many.
They're just... I mean, the thing is, I think if no one liked our books and they weren't selling, I would be sick of train puns. But everyone's going, it's a steaming success. It's chugging into bookshops. And I'm like, woohoo! Yeah, I'm happy.
That's good. No, that's good, because now when I'm trying to write my reviews, that's all I want to be doing is including all of the puns. So that's good to know. Do you both remember the first time you sat down to write the Highland Falcon Thief together? Like, how did that go? Or was it trial and error to begin with?
I remember like our first brainstorming session in the
National Theatre in the front of the house. Yeah.
Yeah. I put a fake meeting. I was at work and I put a fake meeting in my work diary to go and meet Maya in the middle of a work day. Am I frozen? Am I all frozen? And
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Great. I put a fake meeting in my diary to go meet Maya front of house at the National Theatre for a couple of hours to see if we could come up with an idea for a book.
That's where we came up with the name Harrison Beck.
Yeah,
which we're very pleased of, because Harrison Beck, what we wanted was a name that was also linked to trains, and so we brainstormed the names our first meeting, and Sam was saying that the guy who invented the tube map, what's his name?
But firstly, you said that there are lots of kids out there called Harrison.
Yeah, I'd been doing lots of book signings and they were all like, my name's Harrison. And I was like, your dad obviously likes Star Wars. So I was like, this is a good name. So yeah.
And then I said, the guy that designed the original, not the original, but like the iconic 1930s London Underground map where it's like a circuit diagram. The first time the tube map looks like the tube map. He was called Harry Beck. So we thought Harrison Beck, that's a good match. And we liked it because if you say Harrison Beck, Harrison Beck, Harrison Beck, it sounds like a train going over tracks.
I didn't think about that. That's actually really interesting. I was going to say as well, Hal is a great name as well, nickname for a protagonist. And he's such a little, I find him such a little cinnamon roll as well. He's just like such a great person to follow in these adventures that he somehow randomly finds himself in all of these different locations and different trains. It's just, wow, he's just a trouble magnet, him. Is he inspired by anybody who you're close with or anything? Or for his personality anyway? Anybody close to you guys?
I mean, obviously I'm a mum, so I'm around a lot of children and I'm a magpie and I tend to pick up on things, traits and things that I think are interesting and that I think that other children will relate to, because I never forget that our books are essentially written primarily for young readers. And so I want to give them a child or children that they recognized as real, that they could relate to. So I am a magpie. And I do steal things from my sons to put in the book. But the main thing that really I've taken from my kids is neither of my boys are massive readers. Like, they read-ish if I force them, which I do. But they have always been drawers and they will always tell stories and draw pictures. And it seems to me that a lot of children would choose to describe things with pictures over words, because language is such a tough thing to get down fluidly. And I have read so many middle grade books where protagonists just love to read and they just love to write so much. And I haven't really met that many children, other than a certain type of young girl who's very literary, that actually really love to read and write. Most of them see it as really hard work. And so I don't always buy it when I read that in a middle grade book. It's like, and I know that my sons, when they read books about children who just love to read and write, they were like, well, I don't. So I'm not like, this book isn't for me. So I thought I really want us to create a protagonist that children can relate to and feel like they have like the potential of being that detective. And drawing is something that all children love to do. And I could not think of another story where a protagonist draws. So I was like, boom, we've got a really unique way of seeing the world. And that's how he solves his crime, by being really good at observing and, you know, putting that down on paper.
Okay. I really wanted to ask about the whole artistic side of it, because with the illustrations in the books, like a huge important part of the books are Hal's illustrations and the drawings he does of crime scenes and things. So, I mean, I don't know how the world of illustrations work in publishing or anything, but when you were first planning the book and you made Hal be an artist, did you know that you would get an illustrator on board who would be able to do that already? Like, because what if you didn't and you had all of these ideas for what he was drawing? Because isn't it Eliza Paganelli who does the illustrations? Incredible illustrations. Shout out to Eliza for the incredible stuff that she's done for the books. Like, incredible. I love the drawings so much. Did you know beforehand that you could do that?
We didn't know. You write a book, you don't know if anyone's going to publish it. We knew that we wanted it, and we knew that a lot of middle grade books did have internal illustrations, and we thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we made this an opportunity for them to be part of the plot? And one of the reasons we were so delighted to be published by Macmillan is they made us this very comprehensive offer of, we'll put a lot of illustrations in, we'll find a really good illustrator, and they made it possible for us to actually weave the physical detail of what's in the illustrations into the subject matter of the book. So obviously, you know, the book exists as an audio book. You don't need to look at the drawings in order for the plot to function or for you to follow the story. But if you can see them, as you say, Elisa's done a fantastic, brilliant job with them. She's so fast and so accurate and so everything we wanted from an illustrator. It's such a treat. We are able to have a narrative between the two.
Yeah, we have a very particular way of working that's evolved over the books with Elisa, and now when we write a chapter, we know, for example, that Macmillan will allow us to have on average one illustration per chapter and a few extra special ones. So when we're writing a chapter, we'll think, all right, in this chapter, the illustration should be this, whatever, a picture of animals outside the train as they're driving along or something. And then we will give some photo visual references and a little bit of text that is from that chapter for Elisa. And we deliver her a massive spreadsheet, because that's at least 30, if not 40 illustrations for every single book. And there's no way that she can read the book and then work out what she wants to draw, because that would just take forever. So, and also we do amend the manuscript, but we always know that the brief for the illustrations for Elisa goes out once we've written the first draft. And we often say, don't do this one until later, because this picture might change. But it is an administrative tangle. But we never knew with the first book that we would get someone as amazing as Elisa has proven to be. When we did the Highland Falcon, we didn't know how many illustrations, we didn't know how good they would be, how much they could integrate with the book. By the third book with Safari Star, we now have a shorthand with Elisa. So I feel like Safari Star is the real strongest relationship between the illustrations and the text. I think it's a really beautiful package. And
my favorite thing about Safari Star that we've managed to do with the illustrations is in the book, Hal gets given charcoal sticks. And Elisa has done charcoal effect drawings. So normally in the books, they're line drawings, but there's charcoal drawings in this book as well that look so beautiful and really match what Hal is doing in the book. And it's such a wonderful connection between the words and the pictures. And it's absolutely brilliant. She's a star.
it's just another example of how the series has evolved already in just like 3 books as well. It's like, it just really adds to it, I think. And I don't know if have you ever been given an illustration? Did you get to see an illustration and thought, oh, like, has it ever changed the text for you? Or like, has it always just been like, has there been a moment like that?
Yes.
Go on.
Well, like oftentimes we'll say, oftentimes we'll brief an illustration before we've written a scene finally. And like, it's a lot easier for us to say so-and-so is standing on the left or the right than it is to get Elisa to physically draw the person on a different side. Yeah. So we've done things like that where we've just changed little details.
I can think of one, because in the Highland Falcon Thief, she gave the Baron a moustache, and we had that. Yes. And we were like, oh, actually, that looks good. I think he should have a moustache.
I like that. I like. Oh, actually, speaking of Highland Falcon Thief, I read in the author notes of Murder on the Safari Star that apparently there was going to be a dead dog in the Highland Falcon Thief. Can you please elaborate on that? Because it didn't happen. Like, anybody watching, like, don't worry if you haven't read the first book yet. Like, nothing like that happens. But it just, I was reading it, I was like, whoa, wow. So could you just elaborate on that?
This is my fault, so I have to fess up, because the dead dog idea was my idea. And I can't really go into it too much without giving away parts of the plot of the Highland Falcon. But I thought there are 5 dogs in the Highland Falcon. For people who love dogs, it's full of dogs. And I really wanted the reader to hate the villain. And I thought, ooh, what if the dog dies because of something the villain did? And that's how we work out something to do with the plot. And I thought that was really fancy and tricky until our editor at Macmillan was like, you can't kill a dog, Maya. It's not we're not killing a dog in this story. And I was like, God damn it. And then I was like, actually, in fact, my own son loves dogs. And if I had written a book in which a dog died, he would never, ever forgive me. So I'm really glad that they stopped that. But it was my idea. It was a terrible idea. Not all good ideas are good.
It sounds like Macmillan know what they're doing then.
So my thing is, I always want to kill the villain at the end of the book. I always want them to meet a sticky end.
Controversial.
Yeah.
And you may notice in every book, there is a moment where the villain might meet a sticky end. And I guarantee you that in previous drafts, they did.
They all died.
And we were told, you are not allowed to have that person run over by a train. You are not allowed to have that person die.
Maybe you could write adult versions of these books. I feel like that could be the next thing. Another spin-off. We've got adventures on boats, and then we've got the adult adventures on trains. So I feel, although I don't know how that would work.
I don't know, but an adult version of Murder on the Safari Star, Beryl would get very fruity.
Oh, she would.
Oh yeah, she was rather frisky. Oh gosh, poor Uncle Nat. Oh, speaking of Uncle Nat, is he based on anyone? I don't know why, but I just say Sam as Uncle Nat when I read the books.
So Elisa has never met me.
Okay.
But the drawings of Uncle Nat are just drawings of me.
And that wasn't
like, I don't know if she's just like checking out my Instagram and just drawing pictures of me, but like, we have the same glasses. I'm wearing contacts at the moment, but we have the same glasses and we have very similar hair. And he likes trains. He enjoys mysteries. He's quite fun. I like to think that I'm Uncle Nat. I'm not writing a book and thinking, what would I do in this situation? But I definitely feel a synergy between myself and Uncle Nat, just as Maya has the playful, childlike nature of Hal. That's the joke we always tell people, is that Maya is Hal and I'm Uncle Nat.
I like that. Uncle Nat is the kind of uncle I would want, because if I can get tickets to, like, say, a royal train or something, I mean, Best uncle in the world. Best uncle in the world. And to go to South Africa too. Whew. Oh, well, speaking of, actually, we can move on to Mid on the Safari Star and like talk maybe. Actually, before I get into the nitty-gritty of Mid on the Safari Star, would you have said Kidnap on the California Comet was the hardest one to write? Because you did say you struggled with it earlier on out of all three of them. So, well, actually 4, because you'll be writing the Danger of a Dead Man's Past at the minute, right?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So out of...
That's hard for different reasons.
Okay, well, we can talk about that as well. But like out of the first 3, was Kidnap on the California Comet the hardest?
Without a doubt, for me, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't unpleasant to write, but it definitely the trouble we had with the climax, with sort of not knowing quite how to sort of straighten out what we wanted to happen and in what order, that was definitely a challenge. We definitely had problems with all of them though. Like the Highland Falcon was too long, too much happened in the middle of it that didn't make sense. The Safari Star, we had different problems, although that I think was a lot cleaner because we were a lot more sure of the whole book and what it was going to do from the very beginning. So I think Kidnap probably was the hardest, but I wouldn't want it to seem like we don't love it as much as the other books, or that it was fun.
Bless it. We don't want to think it's the unloved child.
But I think that's a lot of second books, though, in that you have years to write the first book, and then suddenly the second one is supposed to come out in 6 months, and you've got to turn it around fast.
But I feel like this. I feel like so with each of the 3 books, you get a very different vibe when you read them. Like the Highland Falcon Thief is like hot water bottles and cocoa and a cuddle. Like it's just, you know, it's all about being on the footplate and discovering steam trains, and it's very nostalgic, and it's one of those books that when you read it, you just think, oh yeah, it's a really nice feeling. California Comet was meant to give you a real sense of Americana, and it's like it's much bigger and bolder, and it's a very different feeling. And we pretty much, with all 3 of the books, we know where we're going with the ending, and we usually first, 20,000 words, first half of the book is pretty easy for us to write. It's the connecting bit between the ending and that first half of the book where we always get into like difficulties. And the thing with the California Comet was that it's a very complex reveal and twist. To make it plausible, believable, not easily discoverable, whilst also laying you up to it in a way that allows a reader to follow it and not just become completely confused and give up. We did that a lot of times, and that was hard, but I feel like because it was so hard, I kind of love it all the more. It's a really good story.
You're right, actually, and I realise why it was so hard now is because I was lucky enough to go on the real life train that's the basis for the California Comet, which is the California Zephyr, which goes from Chicago to San Francisco in America. So we would keep like trying things that you would normally, when you normally write a book, you can do anything you want. But I was like, no, that door isn't there. That wouldn't happen. This isn't like, so we had a lot more rules that we had to follow that were like very specific. Whereas the Highland Falcon Thief is a fictional train. The Safari Star is based on a real train, but neither of us have been on it. So I think we allowed ourselves a little bit more license with that kind of thing. Whereas we were very, very, really, really specific about the comet being as it is in real life.
It's why I would recommend people read the author notes at the back, because there's a lot of interesting stuff about how you both approach the book and kind of like what you took liberties with, what you didn't take liberties with. Kind of, it's really interesting stuff. I would recommend it. I know people like to stop reading a book at the end, kind of thing, but I would recommend reading the author notes as well. They're really interesting.
Well, we are so rooted in real life. Like Maya and I always say that the like fantasy's fine, but we always feel like when you do your research, the things that you discover about the real world are often more interesting than anything that you could make up. And so when we do that research, we always feel compelled to stand by it and make things as accurate as possible.
I guess I don't know if you both feel this kind of pressure then, because I promise I will talk about Murder on the Safari Star, but do you both feel like pressure then? Because if you're presenting something kind of almost like teachable moments to kids when they're reading your books. And I know there are a lot of stuff in the Murder on the Safari Star that's kind of like that, kind of say to do with the rhinos and kind of protecting endangered animals. There's a lot of stuff to do with like real hard-hitting stuff as well, mixed in with all of the fun adventures. Do you both feel a little bit pressure then, because you do say in the author notes you do clarify so that people know what's real and what isn't? But is there kind of pressure now as well as authors that you're teaching kids?
So
maybe the lessons or anything?
Always, because of the beetle books being absolutely entomologically accurate, I've only ever been that kind of author. Like, I have gone in and taught kids and taken in insects and told them about insect anatomies, and I've done speeches at the London Zoo, for goodness sakes. So I've always been that kind of author. And for me, in the writing process, I don't really, I mean, maybe one day I'll make up a fantasy, but the biggest joy of my job is that effectively I get paid to learn stuff that I don't know about. Like, before Sam and I started this adventure series together, I really knew nothing about trains. Like, he's the one that would be like, oh, there's this amazing train in South Africa called the Blue Train, we should do something like that. And I'm like, I've never heard of it. Like, and then I would research it and look it up, and I would become fascinated, and I love the research and I love the learning. And then I get real delight when I see other people enjoy the same things that I enjoyed learning, when they go, oh, I didn't know this. That for me is one of the beauties of reading. And if you can put all of those seeds of delicious kind of juicy nuggets of fact amongst crazy fiction that is just enjoyable to consume, then you're giving children a really rich book. And that to me is a good book. And that's the kind of book that I want to write. So I don't see it as a burden. I see it as an absolute joy.
Nice. What about you, Sam?
Ditto. I mean, I would say that I'm sure, much like the Beetle community, if you say something factually inaccurate about a train, someone on the internet is going to tell you that you did it.
Twitter, you'll be cancelled.
Yeah. I mean, train people are very nice. But, you know, we do like our data to be accurate. And so I guess I'm like living in fear slightly of like having the wrong kind of coupling or something, which in many ways you might dismiss and go, oh, it doesn't really matter, it's just a story. But like, I think, as I've said, you know, when you learn about really specific particular things, often they give you a detail that you can work into a bigger idea that makes the story much more unique and fascinating. So the best parts of all of these books, I think, are rooted in things that we've discovered about the real world and about these trains that are just really cool, that we wouldn't have been able to invent by ourselves if we just made them up.
That's fair. I was going to say, because it was one of the reasons why I loved Murder on the Safari Star so much was because, I mean, I'd been to South Africa before. I'd worked on a game park and like getting rid of traps from poachers to, like, you know, I was saying like the giraffes and the rhinos. The rhinos that were protecting the rhinos. So I wrote this in a review that's on Goodreads, by the way. I mean, not that I recommend anyone go on Goodreads because it can be a cesspit, but I am a good reviewer, okay? So mine's
You're great. We love you.
Yeah, thank you. I love you guys as well. But in my review, I mentioned about how it really reminded me of being back there in South Africa, because what I love about the series in general is that you guys do refresh the setting each time. So even though you are on a train, it is a one place, but it is moving and it's always in a brand new setting, and it's why I love that. So being in South Africa in this one, it did really feel quite real. So when they were stepping outside and they were seeing, like, you know, the animals and the giraffe, and, you know, just say, or even the lion, I was like really, really scared about the part where he meets, you know, it was the lion, wasn't it? I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there is like a meeting and a snake. There's a snake. There's just like so many amazing animal like interactions in this, and it made me remember my time in South Africa. So how did you research it? How did you get into the right mind frame? Because both of you, as you said, have never been to South Africa, but you made it feel really real. How did you do that?
Well, I can tell you what. So YouTube.
Was that a lot?
YouTube. So on YouTube, there are loads and loads of people that post their safari family videos. I've watched hours of random Americans who I don't know going to the Huenge National Park, driving around, like 8 hours. I'll watch all 8 hours. I will then research the exact trees and the color at that time of year, and I'll research the name of the grasses, and I will look so that I know what I'm describing is definitely there. But then once we had written the book, we sent it to editors in South Africa to make sure that we were doing the country justice. We don't, like, we pay homage to all the places that we go. We're not there to, like, cast aspersions on anyone's culture. We want to, you know, and one of the biggest fears with this series is that we accidentally put our foot in it and say something that upsets someone, because that's not the point of this series. It's about celebrating all these amazing places and traveling to them. So we had 3 different sensitivity reads on this book to make sure that we were doing it right. But one of them was the South African editors, to make sure that, like, we did evoke correctly. But we do put quite a lot of work into it. I've watched documentaries on all the trains in South Africa.
So much travel writing that we read as well. There's so much amazing travel writing about set on trains that, and just, you know, exploring Africa generally. Read a lot of Paul Theroux, who's quoted at the start of The Comet, not the Star, his quotes at the start of The Comet. But there's lots of great travel writing that we read that really kind of helps immerse ourselves in it. And that's one of the things that we've always really aspired to do with the series as a whole, is make it like travel writing for younger readers, really, because, you know, if you're an adult, you can go off and explore the world. You can, I mean, in normal times, you can buy a plane ticket to go wherever you want. Not so much this past year. But for younger readers, you know, they can't, you know, they're not in control of their own destiny. They can't go and explore the world. So one of the things we really wanted to do was provide that wonderful, fresh sense of exploration that you get when you're reading a good piece of travel writing. You really feel like you're exploring the world. And that flavor is something we've always wanted to bring to the writing, which is why, you know, as you say, Gav, like, one of the things that we're really important to us is making sure every book has a very different feel, is set in a different place, because they're all about travel, they're all about exploring. We're not looking to just kind of recycle the same formula over and over again. We're looking to make every book feel different and of the place that it's set.
Interesting. It's funny you mentioned about YouTube as well, because that's literally what I do all the time as well. It's how I learn things these days, is YouTube. So I love that you actually evoked that for seeing the visual representation, because Sam did see in America for Kidnap on the California Comet, there was actual research kind of like done and stuff. So I'm sure if you could have been able to, it would have been amazing if you guys could have gone to South Africa. But the great thing about it is, Mid on the Safari Star behind me there is a 5-star read anyway, so it's like you didn't even have to. It's brilliant. I loved it so much. And also I love how Danny's comment, love how interviews always make me want to pick up the books. I might start the first one after the live. You should. And also Sarah reads for fun, when I can learn something in the process without being forced. These books are definitely good for that. There's definitely people's integrity is questioned a lot, and the great thing about Murder on the Safari Star is one of the really horrible people in it is not a nice person, and we have a couple of moments when Harrison confronts him, and Harrison uses his words to show his discomfort with the way that he is acting. I can't remember his name now. He is I don't want to say too much.
Mervyn
Crosby.
Yes. And Harrison confronts him and tells him exactly what he thinks. And I feel like that's a really inspiring and important thing for kids, to be able to stand up to bullies and be able to speak their own truths. I feel like Harrison or Hal is like such a great conduit of that in this series. So I definitely agree with that. I don't know if you guys have intentionally made it so, like, it's not obvious. I don't think it's obvious. It's not told in an obvious way. It's just like in a natural way, where if you are confronted by a bully, then the best thing to do is to use your words to defend yourself. And I feel like that's, I don't know if I've got that. I don't think I've got that totally wrong, have I?
No, but also Hal's really grown, because in the Highland Folk and Thief, he wouldn't have said boo to a goose. So the thing is that over the arc of the book, by the time he gets to Murder on the Safari Star, he's a bit cocky at the beginning of Murder of Safari Star. You know, he fancies himself as a detective. He solved a couple of cases. He's, you know, he's got a bit of confidence. And that's part of his kind of evolution.
Yeah. Well, you could also say as well that Uncle Nat has gone on a bit of an evolution as well, because it's not often in middle grade books where you get an adult figure actually kind of help the child protagonist, or at least not try and stand in the way of the child protagonist. And Uncle Nat is fantastic in that he doesn't, well, he obviously is an adult, so he sees things differently, and the responsibility of being an adult and being in care of a child is, gosh, like I have a niece and I have a niece and 2 nephews now, and I feel like this protectiveness, and I do feel Uncle Nat's protectiveness over Hal, but he never really gets in the way. So I feel like he's also gone on that journey with Hal. So I don't know how in the future we're going to get more of that evolution, because I already feel like they've made such progress since the first book, and obviously we're getting like 20 books in the series, so there's just so much ground to cover.
We love Nat and we love the relationship, and people always tell us they really love the bond that Hal and Nat have. So we definitely, you know, we know that that's important to people, and that was really important to us when we wrote it to make it. Because you're right, like adults mostly are obstacles in kids' books, but it's interesting because a lot of I think one of the reasons that these books feel different to a lot of other books is that there are far fewer children in them than a lot of children's books. Like mostly you're in an adult world, and Hal finds himself thrust into a world of adults. Most of the passengers on trains are adults. Obviously there are always other children that he makes friends with and that he has adventures with, but like the lion's share of the characters in all of the books are grown-ups, so he's kind of navigating that adult world, and Uncle Nat is his touchstone into that world, really. And there's a wonderful bit in the comic that I really like where he like Hal does something a bit cheeky, and Nat like tells him off by like just confronting the grown-up that they tried to kind of get one over on, and it's all a bit awkward, but really he's like, just be a grown-up, just ask what you want. Like don't he teaches Hal like lessons about how to be in the world as a grown-up, but also as a traveler, as someone who's open-minded, and who can rub up against other people, as you have to do when you're on a train with a bunch of strangers. So they definitely do learn from each other.
It's really interesting as well, because they do go to loads of different places, they meet loads of different people. It's really interesting to see how they then interact with those different people. Like they meet so many different people from all walks of life. So it's really, it's again, one of the reasons why I love to pick up a new book in the series, because I just don't know what I'm going to get, either from the characters, because even Hal and Uncle Nat can be so different in the way they are interacting with someone else. So they each have different friends. Well, Harrison has different friends in each book, and that's like really nice to see as well. So I'm like, my next question then, because I keep going on tangents, sorry, and I keep like geeking out, sorry about that, but has there been a friendship or a connection that Hal has had in the 3 books so far that has probably resonated with you guys the most? Any that really stands out to you from all 3 of the books? Is there somebody you're dying to come back in the 4th book, is what I'm saying? I love cameos. I love cameos.
We definitely want to revisit some of his pals. We definitely have plans. Lenny will always be really important, and she's like Hal's kind of best friend, really, because she's the one that showed him the joy of trains. But in terms of just when you said, like, is there a moment from the books about friendship that really speaks to you? For me, the most real moment of any of the friendships that always kind of gets me when I think about it is there's a bit in, is this a spoiler or not? There's a bit in the California Comet where because the California Comet isn't like a luxury train journey where everyone gets on at the beginning and everyone gets off at the end. There's a bit in the California Comet where Hal has to say goodbye to someone, and that's, if you've ever been on like traveling somewhere and you've met someone and they've been like your best friend for 3 days and then you have to say goodbye, like that for me is like the moment that feels the most the most real of like what it's like to make friends when you're traveling. Because, you know, you don't live in the same town, you don't go to the same school, you're going to have an amazing time with this person, and then you have to say goodbye, and that's just the truth of it. And that chapter for me is really lovely because it really speaks to, you know, the truth of what travel is like. And it's sad, but it's also just sort of reminds you what a great friendship they had.
Has that happened to you both as well when you've been on, like, it's happened to me on a train. I've sat next to somebody and it was just like a 2-hour train journey, and we've ended up adding each other on Instagram, and we DM every now and then. So things like that does actually happen. Has that happened to, like, do you have a memory of meeting someone on a train and they've
I
kind
have,
of stayed with you?
the best story for
Oh,
literally
okay. Story time.
So I was in Wigtown Festival, which is a Scottish literary festival. And Wigtown's like this crazy place that's in the middle of nowhere. And I was taken by a local to the train station, which was like a 5-hour drive away. And I was put in the car with this strange Dutch dude that didn't say much, and this very Tory old gentleman that was sat in the front. And I went to the station just kind of not really talking, because they're not my kind of people. And I thought, it's all right, because when we get to the train station, I'm going to get on the train and I've got my ticket. I'll be on a different train to these people or whatever. And as we got out of the car, the Dutch chap who hadn't really spoken was like, oh, you know, where are you sitting on the train? And so I was like, oh, I'm on seat. And he was like, oh, I'm sat opposite you. And I was like, shit. I was hoping for a 6-hour journey where I don't speak to anyone, where like now I'm going to have to talk to this guy. Ugh. And, you know, anyway, he sat down and I was like, yeah. And I was like, hi, I'm Maya, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, my name's Michelle, Michelle Faber. And I was like, you're a writer. Have you been at Wigtown? And he was like, oh, yeah. Now, Michelle Faber is a very, very well-known, very well-regarded novelist of grown-up books that's won many awards and sold millions of books. And he's a much, much bigger author than me. And it turned out he was wearing red shoes, and I complimented his red shoes, and we got into a whole conversation of red shoes. He talked to me for 6 hours all the way back to London. And he told this incredible story about how his books had been bestsellers in China, and how he'd had to go to China, and he'd been given a big ceremonial dinner. And then he was like, I was fed bird's nest soup. Have you ever eaten bird's nest soup? And I was like, no, I don't even know what that's like. So he started to describe just how disgusting bird's nest soup is. And the man has a way with words. And there was a woman sat opposite us, and she was like, she interrupted him. She was like, I'm sorry, but can you stop talking, because I'm going to throw up. And we became really good friends. And now he's like my mate, but he's never read any of my books. Like it just we had a chat on a train, and it was the bird's nest soup. That was the kind of bonding moment. So yeah, I became busy mates with Michelle Faber because of bird's nest soup sitting on a train. So yeah.
I was going to say that for some reason that name sounded familiar as well when you said it, but I was like, okay. I had no idea where that story was going anyway. That was quite a U-turn. I loved it all. What about you, Sam?
Oh, I haven't met any famous novelists on train. I can't compete with that.
Damn, maybe next year.
I didn't even want to trade. No, let's just leave it at the high watermark of Maya's story and move on.
Excellent. Well, there's only a few questions left, actually. How are you both going to celebrate Midge on the Safari Star coming out next week?
Well, I mean, I might go out for a takeaway coffee.
Don't threaten us with a good time. Don't threaten us with a good time.
Well, I will be paying for the family to eat takeaway at home. We will pick our favorite menu, and we'll toast with some champagne the book. But seeing as we eat dinner with each other every single day, it doesn't feel particularly special. At least with California Comet, we actually managed to go out to a restaurant, socially distanced, like dining. So we were able to celebrate that with champagne. But yeah, this is a very indoor celebration.
We've never had a book launch.
I know.
So our first book launch was like the week of first lockdown. The second one obviously was this September, and the third one. So like I've now had 3 books, and like I've never had a launch.
It's weird as well, because you've had 3 books in such a short amount of time as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we're very, I'm completely happy and grateful with the way that they've done and everything that's happened for them. But like, we've never had like that. We've never had, because I remember Maya, you saying like, because we were like, we're planning what we were going to do for the party, and the party was all set to happen, and it got cancelled last minute. And Maya was like, you have to like go for, because you'd worked out what you were going to say, and you were like, and I'm going to make you cry because I'm going to say nice things about you. I've still not heard what she's going to say. So like one day, maybe book 4, at some point, we're going to have the best party. And it's going to
be huge.
Everyone's
4 books
invited.
worth of party. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot to catch up on. Wow.
Exactly.
And I cannot tell you how excited I am for the next book as well. I honestly, as soon as I saw the announcement with that title,
wait till you see the cover. The cover is unbelievable. Elisa's gone. I mean, I thought Murder on Safari Star was like that sexiest cover I'd ever seen. And then she dropped Danger at Dead Man's Parsoness, and we were like,
each one is better than the last with her, and those covers are amazing. I'm so happy.
It's great because then the covers reflect the contents of the books, because I'm pretty sure the Danger at Dead Man's Past will be the best one yet. Can you tell us anything at all about it? Anything at all?
I haven't finished writing. That's what I can tell you about it.
How about that? Like,
gosh damn. Maybe have you got like a byline? Have you got a byline?
No, we can totally talk about it.
Yeah, we know a lot about it.
So it's a little different to the others in that it's not kind of all set on one train. They go on a cross-European journey to Germany, to the Hearthstone, to the Harz Mountains, where something sinister is happening on the Brockenbahn, which is the one of the last remaining timetabled steam railways in Europe, which ran all the way through the Soviet era of East Germany, and it runs to this day, a real-life railway line, the steam railway that runs right to the top of the Brocken Mountain, where there is an abandoned hotel and an old Soviet listening post. And it's coming out in September, just in time for Halloween. It's kind of a spooky story, and Hal has to solve a mystery that may be supernatural flavored. Is something spooky going on, or isn't it? Who can say?
Oh gosh, what a tease!
It's great. It's really exciting. And the best thing is that we went to Germany together in January before lockdown. We did the journey. We took the sleeper train across Europe. We went up the mountain. We went up the Brocken on the amazing steam railway. So we've done our research. We loved it. We're really excited. It's going to be full of atmosphere. And there's lots of awesome, like, we've been inspired by like The Hound of the Baskervilles, by Dracula, like all the great kind of spooky crossing Europe on a train kind of books. Yeah.
So a bit gothic. I love me some gothic atmosphere, a bit dark. I love me a dark middle grade as well.
Yeah. So one little tease that we can give you is, because you've seen the Baron's letter at the end of the Safari Star. Mm-hmm. And it says that the letter has been sent from Schloss Kratzenstein. Kratzenstein is the name of the German family. So Kratzenstein is taken from the original doctor that inspired Mary Shelley to create Dr. Frankenstein. The real doctor was a German doctor whose surname was Kratzenstein, and that's where we took the name from. So just to give you an idea of how this one should feel very different to the other 3, but it's definitely got a certain element of German mist and spooky gothic atmosphere.
Oh gosh, I cannot wait. Oh, I know they were on NetGalley, the second and third book were on NetGalley, so this book needs to be either on NetGalley or like the Highland Falcon Thief, which I managed to score an arc of that as well, if at all possible. So not that I'm bribing anyone, but I will pay. I will actually pay for it. If you need my email address for the manuscript, I mean, it's gavinbooktube@gmail.com. But I'm not forcing anyone. I'm not forcing anyone's hand. So, I mean, that sounds amazing. I absolutely cannot wait. Do you have a time frame from when we can see the cover? Like, when will the cover reveal be now? Because you've got me so intrigued. You don't know?
You flatter us that you think we're in charge of such things.
I do. I think we're in charge of everything. I thought as well, because stupid me, when the Hyde and Falcon Thief came out and all of the bookshops were getting the signs with the bookshop names, and I was emailing the wrong publisher for the sign as well, because even though I want to give a huge shout out to Waterstones and Gateshead. We sold, was it 120 Hyde and Falcon Thieves in 1 week? And we smashed it. We're a very small branch, like we're in the middle of a shopping centre. We're really small, but we were like, we need a sign. We need to get one up for Hyde and Falcon Thief, but we never got one because I was emailing the wrong publisher. But we still ended up making our own, and then we got one.
That adorable cardboard sign that was, I think, even more charming.
I think so as well. It's a lot more handmade. It's a bit like how he would draw. It was kind of like our arts and crafts project as well. I feel like it was like great. But if you know anything at all about like the cover and stuff, like when you can reveal it, I wouldn't mind being the cover revealer or just hyping people up for it as well. I know you guys do have more power than you realize. Just we will
ask. Because with California Comet, they wanted to do the cover reveal for Safari Star quite quickly after Cali Comet came out, because that's when they make it live in Amazon or whatever. So there was like a schedule. Because everyone's in lockdown and working remotely from home, things are slightly less connected. So we know that the cover exists and it only got signed off like last week. So I would imagine that once it's out, pretty soon afterwards there will be a reveal, but so far we haven't scheduled it in, but you will be the first to know.
Excellent. I'm not putting pressure on anyone, don't worry about it. I won't be offended if somebody else does it. It's fine. Anyway, do you have a kind of an end goal of what you want the Adventures on Train series? Like, do you know how many books there might be? I always ask this. You might not know. You might still I don't know, you might not even be able to say. But I would like to know if you have an end in mind.
We had, so when we were like getting drunk and brainstorming the idea of we're gonna write books on trains, we were like 10 books. We'll do 10 books. And then the other day when we were having a more serious brainstorm of like actually which train journeys and what kind of stories do we want to tell, we were like 11 books? Question mark.
I thought you were going to say like 5.
I think we have 11 good ideas. I think we will do it as long as we have good ideas and people want to read them. We've no interest in flogging a dead horse or outstaying our welcome. And although it seems like, you've got the whole world, I think there will come a point where there's a natural finish. We do know what the last one will be, and I won't tell you. But we do know, we're very clear about what will happen in the last book. So we have our endpoint finish. It's just how far in the future that endpoint is something we're not sure about yet.
But Macmillan have bought 6. So we are obliged to deliver 6, and they will definitely publish 6. But that 6th book will come out in 18 months' time. So they want them every 6 months. So we are working very hard. But before they ever even bought 1 book, they had an outline for 10. So we're not struggling to work out, where's the next story going to be? We have those outlines, and we go, like, the order that the books come in are in discussion with Macmillan. We don't choose the order. Often it's to do with the international licensees, the international publishers. They'll be like, South Africa really wants a book, and Macmillan have a big sister company in South Africa, so they were very keen that mystery, even though we were always going to do one in South Africa because of the Blue Train, they were keen for that one to come earlier. And COVID has affected the order of our stories, because there are a couple of stories that we definitely cannot write without going and visiting the country in which we are setting them. So we've had to slightly reorder our books so that books 5 and 6, it is possible for us to visit or have enough knowledge of to write well. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. To work at Macmillan, honestly, to be in that room when you guys are discussing what's happening when, all of the ideas, I hate being on the outside, honestly. And it's funny as well, because there was a question just before as well, which was a little bit funny. Are you all as good as friends as you all seem? Well, this is the first time I've met Mia and Sam, but I feel like we're all best buds now. So yeah. Although I'm sure that question was directed to you two, really. But
we have known each other nearly 10
years.
Like
10 years. Yeah. Maya was my boss for like 4 years at work, and then but she was like a cool boss. She wasn't like the other. And then like we went to her wedding, and like we hung out and we got drunk at award ceremonies together, and now we've been writing books together for like 3-4 years, 3.5. We've been talking about writing books together for at least 4. So yeah, we have a good time. Actually, when we went to Germany together in January, we had a whole chat about how we were like, can you believe that we've just spent 5 days together and not seen another human being? We don't want to rip each other's eyeballs out. We must be really good friends.
Yeah, that is a testament.
Because I don't know how many people are there in my life that I could spend 5 solid days with and like travel across the continent with and not be sick of them. And she's one of them. So, you know, she's a great travel companion.
Best. He's one of my best friends. So yeah.
Oh, you guys, I want to cry. Last question then before we end. I can't believe it's been an hour and a half. Sorry, guys.
Wow.
Not taking all your time, but the last one is, I know you guys have other projects as well that you might have in the works. I know, Mia, you have a book coming out, another book coming out, I think in August as well. Is that correct? Do you want to talk about that?
I have a book. So I've got arcs up here. Ooh. It's a book called Twitch. These will be going out in the next week or so you'll probably get one, Gav.
Probably. Definitely.
I should hope so.
You're listening, Walker.
Yeah.
This is
I emailed the wrong publisher.
Yeah, it's with a different publisher. But obviously the Adventures on Trains things, collaboration with Sam, and it is kind of a sidestep from the work that I have written, Beetle Boy and the Beetle Collector's Handbook, but I still have a really active role in conservation. I'm a vice president of a charity called Bug Life, which is the biggest insect conservation charity in Europe. And one of the things that's come out of my love of insects is a passion for bird watching, because the two communities are really linked, because obviously birds, they need to eat insects, so they need a healthy community of insects. And there's a lot of science where the two communities get together. And so when I met lots of insect enthusiasts when I wrote Beetle Boy, they were all also bird watchers. And many of them said to me, oh, you should write about birds, or, you know, come to this bird event. And I was like, I don't know much about birds. And they were like, well, you didn't know anything about beetles. And so I spent a lot of time over the last few years researching and becoming a bird watcher and learning. And this very much is for children who love the natural world, love being outside. It's another thrilling adventure. And it's about a bird watcher called Twitch. That's his name. He's a slight outcast loner type. And he gets embroiled in a mystery with an escaped convict that's kind of inspired by that opening to Great Expectations, where Pip suddenly is startled by the convict in the graveyard. So that's coming in June. And this year I've got 3 middle grade books out, but this is very different in flavor. It's much more quirky and there are no trains in it.
I've read it, and despite it not having any trains in it, I thought it was wonderful. It's like the nicest time. It's like a hug. It's exciting. It's fresh and delightful, and it's set in this lovely wood, and it just makes you feel like you're going for a beautiful walk on a summer's day. It's just a treat.
I really wanted to, because I wrote it during lockdown, and I really wanted to write something that, because lots of things to be exciting, to be dramatic, lots of people naturally steer towards the dark or the depressing or the upsetting. And it's been so hard for our kids this last year, really, really tough. And I didn't want to write a children's book that took a child to a dark place. I wanted to show them that the world can be beautiful and full of wonder and magic just in their back gardens, and that it can be exciting, and the power and the importance of friendship and what friends can bring to each other. So it's a really hopeful read. Like, it's one of those things that hopefully you'll get to the end and you'll be like, that feels amazing. So I really focus a lot on how I want a reader to feel when they read my books, because the readers are essentially children. And with Twitch, I really want children to love it, to hug it, and so it's not dark, it's not going to depress you, it should be joyous.
It's light. It's the light we need in 2021 is essentially what it is. And it sounds amazing. I can't wait. I'll put pre-order links in the description of the of this YouTube video as well, and the links to Sam. Do you want to talk about your podcast as well? And then I'll link that too in the description. I'll update it. But that just sounds amazing, Mia. I will definitely pre-order that.
It's really good. You should. So I am one of the new producers and presenters of Down the Rabbit Hole, which is a radio show all about children's books on Resonance FM. It comes out every month. It's 5 p.m. it's normally the last Tuesday of every month. We kind of had our first introductory episode recently, last week, but our first kind of fully produced episode will be in February. So you can find out more about that by searching for Down the Rabbit Hole Radio on your favorite podcasting app, or by going to downtherabbithole.com, or by checking out Down the Rabbit Hole Radio on Twitter, Instagram, any of your social medias of choice. I used to do a podcast for the National Theatre. I've always loved doing radio stuff and presenting, so I'm really excited to be doing that. We talk about different topics and themes in children's books, and we invite authors and illustrators and people within the industry to talk about them with us and share what we're reading and what we're excited about and what's coming up in the future, which is very cool. So as well as writing books, that is what I am doing. And I do not have a middle grade book coming out this summer, unfortunately, that I can plug. But I can tell you that I am announcing something on the 9th of February. So a few days after our book comes out, I'll be sharing some news that I'm not allowed to share just yet, but I'm going to be sharing some news on the 9th of February. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you know what it is.
I've got links in the description box for Mia's and Sam's Twitter as well, so I'll definitely keep an eye on
the hot goss.
All of the hot goss, exactly. Well, I mean, there's so much more that I could say. There's so much more I could definitely talk about. But yeah, I also want to give a huge thank you to Sam, Mia's husband, as well, for helping arrange this whole thing as well. I mean, he was just incredible. So thank you so much, Sam. And yeah, do you guys want to say anything to say goodbye or something? I'm not too sure if you want, I don't know, like, bye everyone.
Also, thanks for having us, Gav. It's a delight to be here with you, and to be honest, best Friday night I've had in months.
Oh my goodness. Such a treat to just have a chat about books with someone who loves books. Like, what could be better?
Exactly. I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
The middle grade community loves you, Gav, because you do so much for us. So
you're such a sweetie. Thank you
so much. Well, you guys have helped me more than I've helped you guys. So thank you for coming on. You've made this, honestly, one of the best interviews I've ever done. So thank you so much. And I don't usually, I don't know why, but out of nowhere, I just started interviewing middle grade authors, and I have no idea why. I never really wanted to. Yeah, I feel like I think that's the reason. You guys are just so cool and amazing. So many secrets and gossip. It's amazing. So yeah, all links in description. Everyone check it out. And yeah, that's it, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.